You now are listening to the audio podcast of Prisoners of Hope, the antidote to what ails your heart. I'm your host, Dr. Deborah Whitson. So come on in, pull up a chair, and open up your mind as you get ready to receive the download that hope will bring. Good day, guys. It's Dr. D, and this is part two of the cost of baggage. In part one, we talked about certain things that could be in your baggage, right? Right? Past hurt, past failures, sitting in your comfort zone too long. Check out part one of cost of baggage. But we are not meant to carry a heavy burden. Again, on the YouTube channel is that gif again of the woman who's bending down repeatedly to pick up a backpack, which seems quite heavy. In Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come to me, all you are weary and heavily burdened, and I will give you rest." So you have to come, and then He will give you rest. So stay tuned for part two. Let's talk about strategies for getting out of the BS. Remember, the BS was the broken system, the bad system. It is a strategy that you use that was BS. It did not work for you. So today we're going to talk about strategies to get out of the BS. The first strategy is to read. Reading is a great way of shucking that BS that's in your life, that bad system, that broken system, that bad story. And read the word. If you're on the YouTube channel, you'll see a Bible came up and it's all dusty and somebody wrote, "Read me." Like in the back of a card, "Wash me." It's read me. Read the word. You can get the Bible app. People are like, "Well, I don't like to read." Don't use excuse-itis, the disease of failure. If you don't like to read, you can listen. The U verse Bible app is wonderful. You can listen, and then there's writing under the listening, and then there's prayer under that. There's just something for everybody as long as you seek. Seek and you will find. So the word. One thing also that is really good to read is good books, books that promote the word, that confirm the word. This one book came up, if you're on the YouTube channel, it's called The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. And a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not a good reader." And this book is a parable, is written in a parable. And you meet Ordinary. And Ordinary, this guy named Ordinary, that's his name, Ordinary. He lives in a town called Familiar. And he has to get out of the comfort zone territory into the border line. And they're bullies, they're naysayers. There are people who wish that they had taken the journey with him. So this is a parable that talks about how to grab onto your God-given destiny. I really like this book. So read for your edification, okay? Prayer. I was going to say this. You knew it. You knew, right? Prayer is just talking. It's just talking to God. It's opening your mouth and let your request be known. Open your mouth and let your requests be known. That's what prayer does. So, really, you don't have to worry about anything, but instead tell God what you need and thank Him for all that He's done. That's Philippians 4:6. Don't worry about anything, pray. Now, have I achieved this? No, but I'm working toward it. Have you achieved it? Put a loudspeaker on your mind and see, have you achieved a full life without anxiety and worry? You know, when you pray, it's just a communication process. It's just sitting down and communicating to God. A lot of times I imagine that He's sitting on the bench right by me and I'm just talking to Him. And sometimes I just sit in silence and I listen. Listen is part of communication. We talk and we should listen. Maybe God tried to give us a hint. He gave us one mouth and two ears. Okay? Listen I can't talk. Carefully to the voice of the Lord, your God, and do what is right in His sight. That comes from the Bible. To listen carefully, okay, carefully, and do what He says. If you do this, He will provide the correct path for you out of the BS. You know, sometimes we trying to get out of the BS, we get deeper into it. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So, BS that comes in our life, bad stories, broken systems, are ways that we can show that we have faith in what God has done for us and what He will do for us. And sometimes we're so deep in the BS, we want to make sure we go the right way out instead of deeper into it. So the first thing was read. Then we talked about the conversation that you're going to sit down and have with God, pray. Then we talked about the fact you're also going to listen. And number 4, I want to talk about is associate. You know, associate is so important. The association with the correct people. Have you ever heard of this saying, birds of a feather, they do what? They flock together. That's why when you were coming up, your parents didn't want you to spend time with that girl or that boy because they were afraid that through association, things would go south. Through association, things can go north. We want to associate with people who lift us up, associate with people that we can help and that can support you and you could support them. Surround yourself with people who offer you godly advice. I'm going to emphasize that. I'll say it again. Surround yourself with people who offer you godly guidance and advice. That is so important because we can get deeper into the BS if we listen to the wrong person. Talk to God, listen to the Holy Spirit, and associate, pray, and read. These are true strategies. I've tried them. You can try them too. That can get you out of your BS. Well, now I want to talk about the invisible process. Number 5, you need to trust the invisible process. So you need to read, you need to pray, you need to listen, you need to associate, and you need to trust the invisible process. This comes from a book by Jeff, I don't know why I want to call Jeff Peter, Jeff Olson. is a book called The Slight Edge. It's one of the most profound books that I have ever had the honor of reading. And in it, Jeff talks about two paths that we can take in life. And I'm going to try to describe it, but if you're on the YouTube channel, it's more visual. Imagine a T that's laid on its side, and the T has a real long tail, okay? And at the top of the T, not the tail, at the top, at the vertical top, there is a plus. And the plus side of life is made up of simple discipline, okay? Simple disciplines. At the bottom part of the T, it's a negative, and that's at the bottom part of life. And at the bottom part of it is simple errors in judgment. So at the positive part of life, you have simple disciplines. At the bottom part of life, you have simple errors in discipline. Now, one thing that's very interesting about this diagram is that as you move down the T's tail, there is like one black line. You can't discern the difference between people who are on the positive end with their simple little disciplines and people on the negative. There is no difference at first. But on both sides of life, positive and negative, you have what you call invisible results. Invisible results. These are results, but you really can't detect them. That's why the two lines are on top of each other. And the mode of thinking or thought on the positive side is taking responsibility. These people take responsibilities for their actions or the lack of thereof. Going to the bottom half of life, which is the negative part, okay, you also have what you call invisible results. So you have invisible results at the top, positive part of life. And at the bottom, you have invisible results. Remember, the two lines are on top of each other. You can't really tell the difference. The mode of thought for the negative people is blame. They tend to assign blame. Well, it's that fault, this fault, the weather fault, your fault. Their mode of thought is blame. Remember, at the top, their mode of thought is responsibility. They have invisible results too. Being responsible. Don't see no difference. The bottom, they're blaming everybody, everything, and they have invisible results. Now, nature kind of mimics this invisible process. There is a Chinese bamboo tree that takes 5 years to grow. Now, check this out. You have to water it and fertilize it in the ground that it was planted from the very first day. Okay, so you get it, you plant it, you water, fertilize that bamboo tree, and you keep on watering it, and it doesn't break through the ground for 5 years. Did you hear me? 5 years. No tree. You're fertilizing it. You're watering it. Invisible, results. And then it will grow 90 feet in 5 weeks. Did you hear me? 90 feet in 5 weeks. So there was a lot of invisible results. Remember, just like on our two paths graphs, a lot of invisible results. Nothing was discernible for 5 years. Another example of this in nature is the water hydrangeas. And the water hydrangeas is a delicate looking plant. I'm trying to read this from the book, so excuse me. Um, It's if a pond surface is fairly still and undisturbed, the water hydrants may cover the entire pond in 30 days. Okay. On the first day, you won't even notice it. In fact, for the first few weeks, you will have to search very hard to find it. On the 15th day, the foliage will perhaps cover a single square foot of the pond surface, barely significant. On the 20th day, two-thirds of the way to the end of the month, you may happen to notice a dense little patch of floating foliage about the size of a small mattress. Okay? On the 29th day, half of the pond surface will be open. On the 30th day, the entire pond will be covered with a blanket of the water hydrant. You will not see any water at all. So there was a lot of invisible results. When you deal with faith, you deal with invisible results, but you have to keep on going. The thing about this book is his theme is easy to do and easy not to do. Now, what's so interesting about this diagram, if you're on the YouTube channels, the arrow on top of the line, remember the two lines, the negative part and the positive, are not discernible. And then all of a sudden, almost exponentially, the positive starts headed up and the negative starts headed straight down. So one end of this graph has life, positive, negative, and then the long tail is time. Over time, there's a discernible difference. But at first, there was no difference. There were invisible results. And I'm going to read directly from what Jeff says. He says, making the right choices, making the right actions is truly easy to do. Ridiculously easy. But it's just as easy not to do. Remember, easy to do, easy not to do. And if you don't do them, there won't be any drama about it. Remember, that's why the two lines on top of each other at first. It won't kill you. It won't hurt you. In fact, it won't make any difference at all. Not today, anyway. Not tomorrow, but over time. The right choices you make today compound over time. They will take you higher and higher up the success curve. That's the top part of that graph of your real-time movie called your life. The wrong choices, remember, simple errors in judgment today, compound over time and absolutely, positively, inevitably take you down further on the failure curve. Now, what's so interesting about this graph is that people on the success curve, they tend to focus on the future. And people on the failure curve, they tend to focus on the past. Remember that one thing in your baggage from the part 1 was unfinished things that pull you to the past. Now, this is very profound. I suggest you get this book and you read it. It's called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Only 5% of the population resides on the success curve. And 95% of the population reside on the failure curve. You know, the Bible talks about don't get tired of doing what's good. Just keep on, just keep on. This is what this talking about, compounding interest. It does it, if you don't spend time with God today, oh okay, it's not gonna really hurt you, right? And tomorrow might not really hurt you, right? But sometime in the future, it's easy to do. Easy. It's easy to read the Word of God. Easy to talk to Him. Easy to listen. Easy to associate. But guess what? It's easy not to do. So check out his book. It's phenomenal. Well, the bad news is that 95% of the people reside on the failure curve, with only 5% of the people really finding out what the key to a successful life is. But the good news, you can make a U turn. When you make a U turn, you turn around and go in the opposite direction. So you could be on the negative side and start having this simple little disciplines, and then one day you find yourself up with the 5%. Or you could be up with the 5% and forget what you did to get there. So it's a daily renewing of your mind, because the devil, he's daily pounding on your mind. So I want you to understand that you must trust the process. It is a process with a lot of invisible results. Well, I enjoyed this time with you. Signing off, Dr. D. God bless. My hope is that this journey has been fruitful and you're able to take it and apply it to your life. Until next time, tune in again for the Prisoners of Hope podcast. God bless.